Kentucky still doesn't have a single recruit in their upcoming recruiting class, but to be honest with you, I don't really think there's any reason to panic just yet.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we're going to be talking about Kentucky's barren 2026 recruiting class. Should Big Blue Nation be panicking about the lack of recruits? I don't think so just yet. I'm going to explain why. Also on today's episode, we're going to talk about Jaylen Lowe's impact. He's rounding into form, or at least he has these last couple of games. Going to talk about stats, going to talk about what we've actually seen from him on the court, because I think that's more important than anything. And then to wrap up the show, we're going to talk about some New Year's resolutions for myself and the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Really appreciate you guys tuning in tonight here on a live edition of Locked On Kentucky. Not quite sure how many people are going to get here on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's, by the way, for those of you that are watching this in 2026. We are live streaming this on the Locked On Kentucky YouTube channel, still in 2025. If you're listening to this on the postcast on podcast platforms, or if you're watching it on YouTube, would love it if you subscribed to the show. Kentucky doesn't have a single recruit in their 2026 recruiting class. Darren Rippey Jr. just committed to Duke. Jason Crow Jr. earlier this year, I should say, committed to Missouri. Caleb Wilson earlier this year ended up going to Carolina to play this season. There are a lot of big-time recruits that Mark Pope and the Cats have seemingly whiffed on. And they don't have anything to go into 2026 banking on. There's not a Tyron Stokes. There's not a Darren Rippey. There's not a Jason Crow. There's not a Caleb Holt. There's not a Christian Collins. There's nobody here yet. Should Big Blue Nation be panicking? I don't think so. I don't think so. Peanut Butter Posse actually in the live chat just pointed out exactly where I'm going to go with this conversation. I don't think Kentucky needs to panic as a program if they end up either getting a small 2026 class or if they get nobody at all. Because there are two things that Kentucky can look forward to in 2026, the 26-27 season. They have the chance to bring back a lot of pieces. And the jury, I think, is still out on these guys as individual role players, a lot of these guys as role players, to see if they can make it work and develop and actually, step up to the level that we expected them to play at preseason. So the jury is still out on a lot of pieces that can return next year. And then Peanut Butter Posse in the live chat says, the portal is where it's at. Kentucky can still hit like crazy in the 2026 transfer portal class in the offseason. Late April, early May is going to be, it's my heyday here on the show, because it's kind of where I would argue that, I don't really give myself props a whole lot when it comes to doing this show. My favorite thing to do, and I feel like we do a great job of discussing it here on the show, is transfer portal ads and whether or not they would be successful or unsuccessful, how they would fit, what their stats look like, what they did with their previous. We do a super deep dive into what kids can do coming from other colleges. And I think Kentucky is going to have a bigger, a more, I think, extravagant transfer portal cycle than they did this past offseason. Obviously, missing on Yaxel is huge. No duh. I think Kentucky is going to be in position to get somebody like that if they don't get Tyron Stokes, to be clear. You can still hit like crazy in the portal. You can nab a couple of pieces in recruiting. And you can honestly probably still get Tyron Stokes. And if you get Stokes, you can spend money on quality players in the portal to build around him. You can get another Yaxel type. You can get somebody like a Darren Rippey Jr. who has already played a couple of years in college. You can get a 3-and-D wing who can really spray it. You can get another Kobe Brea type. You can get an Amari Williams if you want to at center, right? To pair with Malachi Marino. If it's like Tyron Stokes and a 4-star shooting guard, we're good for the 2026 recruiting class, not the transfer portal class. If we got Yaxel, would we have gotten JQ? I think so, because Yaxel will still play the 4, right? And that's honestly, it might be the position that Kentucky is weakest at in terms of players that naturally fit at that position. Because I think you could tween Diabate 3 and 4, and Yelovich can play down to the 5. I think that, but he's not as quality as Yaxel. I think that it still would have been a possibility, peanut butter. But some of you in the live chat are already saying it. So not only can Kentucky go crazy in the transfer portal if they don't have a great 2026 recruiting class, there's also still time to fix everything with JMI, with how Mark Pope is closing at the end of these deals with recruits. There's time for Kentucky to fix things, and Mitch Barnhart can do something about it. Mark Pope can do something about it. JMI can do something about it as far as being more clear with the players that they're going after, because it's not like players don't want to come here. It's Kentucky. It's still the greatest college basketball program in America. Full stop. There is still time between now and late March, early April, so much time for JMI to clean themselves up a little bit and say, okay, and for Kentucky to really, really be firm here and say, we need more clarity in how we're going to go about this process if we want to get the big fish. We've got the money to get the big fish. Let's go out there. Let's be more clear with how we're operating. Now, there's no guarantee that Kentucky will fix their JMI issues. There's also no guarantee that they don't end up with a few 5-stars in this year's class. We don't know what's going to happen. But all of this to say, it's all to say, should Big Blue Nation be panicking? Because some people are. No, I don't think it's fair to panic just yet. And if anything, I would err on the side of optimism because of what this program is. I would err on the side of things trending in our direction at the end of the 25-26 season. Even if Kentucky does not get the coveted Final Four national championship run that they so desired before the season began. There's still a lot of time for Kentucky to fix this. Captain Crash isn't panicking. And if Captain Crash 21's not panicking, you shouldn't be either. Jaylen Lowe has actually been getting up to speed recently, and it's really exciting to watch. I talked about it during the offseason at length in a Substack article. We've talked about it before on the show at length, and we're starting to see what I kind of expected from Jaylen as a cog in this wheel. And I'm really excited as far as the dynamic he brings to this offense, not just as a distributor and as a floor spacer, but as a scorer himself. That's kind of what I want to touch on here in detail in just a moment. Before we do it, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited window where special offers drop right inside FanDuel's app before the action even starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app, see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy boosts, bonuses, surprises. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, really appreciate you guys tuning in tonight here, 7:30 Eastern. We are just hours away from 2026. Got a decent chunk of people in here. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. Thank you so much for making this year so incredibly special on the show. To be honest with you, this season has not gone the way that we expected it to. No duh. But the run that Kentucky went on to finish the 24-25 season was nothing short of incredible. The highest highs that I have experienced as the host of this show, the most fun I have had doing this show, came from last season. At the beginning of the season with some really big wins, some crazy comeback wins, And then obviously the highs and lows of SEC play, the NCAA tournament, making the Sweet 16 for the first time that I've been doing this show. And all of you guys being there, being excited, being upset when it was time to be upset, riding the roller coaster, just over 15,000 of us at that point, I believe getting closer to 20,000 now. Got to cross the 19,000 barrier first, but I really appreciate all you guys. It's been a really, really fun year. It's been my favorite year of the show so far, and I'm really excited to see what 2026 holds. Really appreciate you guys. You already live your team every day. You can take it up a level and go ad-free if you would like. You can join the Everydayer Club today. Get Locked On Kentucky with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month, $50 a year. You can go to lockedonkentucky.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. You can also just hang out here because honestly, the live chat's kind of where it's at. So let's talk about Jaylen Lowe. He has actually been getting up to speed recently, and it's really exciting. It's really exciting to me. I would assume that it's also really exciting to you guys as well because of the fact that Kentucky is so desperately needed an added dynamic to their offense that actually spreads the floor, that gets shooters open, that lets Otega-Oweh drive to the basket consistently instead of the lane being clogged every time he wants to try it. Jaylen is unique for this team in the skill set that he brings to the table. And it sucks that he has not been healthy to start the year. But now that he's become healthy, we've started to see what he can do. Not just as a distributor, which is obvious. When he is on the floor, everybody has to play Kentucky differently because he is the best ball handler. He's the best passer. He's got the best vision of any player on this team. And what that also does in turn, when defenses have to respect what he is doing passing the ball, it allows him, and it's allowed him in these 2 second halves against St. John's and Indiana to go to work in the paint and score. Over the course of these last 2 games, and obviously efficiency is one thing, but I really want to focus on what our eyes are telling us, even if he's not hitting some of these shots. In the 2 games that he has played significant minutes against quality competition here towards the end of non-con play, Jaylen Lowe has shot 9 of 15 inside the arc. That's 60%. He's just 1 of 5 from beyond the arc, so 20%. So that comes out to 10 of 20. So he is averaging 13 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists, shooting 50% from the floor, better than he has. If he's able to kind of hold that, if he's able to hold 47, 46, 45%, I mean, that's going to be some of the best that he had, or it's going to be the best that he's had throughout his college career. He's doing all of this over the last 2 games in only 19.5 minutes per contest. He's going to get, if he's healthy, he's going to get somewhere between 20, 25, 26 minutes per game, I can imagine. In the games that matter. And he is going to be able to provide double-digit scoring. And his shot selection, I think, is going to provide him some sort of efficiency. I like his ability to create his own shot. He had that really sweet step-back 3 against St. John's. But what I'm more impressed with is, again, we talk about spacing. We talk about the need to respect Kentucky differently defensively. When he gets into the lane, or when he's gotten into the lane in the second halves of these 2 big games, he's been able to get in the paint and finish. Not just finish, but finish through contact as well a little bit. He's been able to get to the charity stripe a little bit. If he is able to continue at his size to bring that dimension to Kentucky's offense, it's going to make them capable of scoring enough every game to win every game from here on out for the rest of the season. It's going to give them the opportunity to win games. It's not just about the passing with Jaylen, and that's the big thing. But because that is so well respected, he is able to create his own shot. And sure, there will be games where teams play him a little differently, and they force him to take runners or floaters that are not quite directly at the rim. there will be games where he's not incredibly efficient. That's going to happen. However, this is not the most efficient offense that Kentucky has had over the last few seasons. It's still pretty good, by the way, to be clear. But even then, Lowe is doing something that he didn't really do at Pittsburgh a season ago. When I wrote about him on Substack earlier this offseason, about how I thought he was going to take a jump, he was going to look a lot better, it had to do with his shot selection, specifically inside the arc. The three-point shot is whatever. This team can't shoot, okay, fine. They can't shoot consistently. We'll say that more positively. His shot selection at Pitt was terrible inside the arc because he would take a lot of mid-range jumpers and a lot of floaters that were not directly at the rim. He would take a lot of far twos, and he was super inefficient on those. When he got to the rim, he was pretty average to slightly above average efficiency at Pitt. But he didn't do it nearly as much as he took mid-range shots, took more difficult shots. This season, yeah, like I said, there's going to be opponents that try and push him away from the rim, but he has been able to kind of navigate and finish. Against Indiana, he did it several times in the second half. Against St. John's, he did it several times in the second half. He's been a really good closer for Kentucky. It's shocking to me how well he's gotten to the rim in these two games. He's genuinely been closing things out for the Wildcats. The stats are nice. 13, 4, 2.5, and 19 minutes a game on 50% shooting. That's nice. That's great. We'll take that every single game if we can get it. But what we're actually seeing, what our eyes are showing us about this offense as a whole, and then about what he's able to do individually because of how defenses have to play him differently, it's all very exciting. It's very positive for Kentucky moving forward. So the question for Mark Pope and this staff is, how do you capitalize on that? How do you get the most out of him with the way that he's playing right now, while also trying to make sure that he stays healthy for the rest of the season? Because obviously, health is a huge concern here from here on out because of the shoulder injury. It's going to linger for the rest of the year. That's just the reality of it, and they have to work around that. It's going to be really tough to do that. If they can find a way to do that and let Kentucky be baseline average offensively with Lowe out, and then really take things up a notch whenever he's in, as he has proven that he can do with this team, that's really awesome. And I was literally about to say it, and UK Wildcats Win says in the live chat here. He says they say it's so nice to see Williams get out of the dry spell. And that's exactly what I was about to say. Having players like Cam around Jaylen to kick out to, and him be confident and get out of his slump and knock down some outside shots, that's going to make Kentucky even more lethal. If players like Chandler, if players like Cam, if players like Jasper, even Owe, if they can be average to above average shooting, which I think they all have the capability of doing to some degree, maybe not consistently, then this offense is going to be fine. It's going to be good enough for Kentucky to win, again, have the chance to win every game that they play from here on out. Kentucky by no means is out of this if Lowe is healthy, and he's been getting up to speed, and it's been super exciting. So, pause for water here. All right. I appreciate all of you tuning in here on the New Year's Eve edition of Locked On Kentucky, December 31st, getting closer to 8 p.m. Eastern. Really appreciate all you guys tuning in. Let's wrap up the show with 3 New Year's resolutions for Locked On Kentucky. Before we do that, though, I'll tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, quite like college basketball season. The packed arenas, the vibes, the aura, just the incredible moments, especially here at Rupp and just for Kentucky, period. The moments that you'll remember forever, but actually getting tickets to go see the Cats play, just see them either at Rupp or away, that part used to be frustrating with the long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I really love, and this is not a bit, I really love the zone deals on Game Time. I've used them for college football games out of town. I've used them now for NBA games recently. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Charlotte. I wanted to go see a Hornets game. Zone deals. You can pick the section. Game Time picks the seats. You save even more. It's incredible. You can also know that on Game Time, prices include fees up front. Makes the whole process stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying your college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, wrapping up tonight's episode of Locked On Kentucky. We'll get a little bit here to the live chat as we're talking about how I'm not worried about Kentucky's recruiting class yet, how Jaylen Lowe is stepping up, and some New Year's resolutions for Locked On Kentucky. There is a question in the live chat that I'll try and get to here after the New Year's resolutions, plural. But I want you guys to answer this while we're sitting here waiting. How many, Hostility23 asks, how many SEC games are we winning? Peanut Butter Posse says 13. I'll let you guys marinate on that while I give you my New Year's resolutions for the show. First and foremost, I'm going to be more positive with how I approach social media. More specifically, I'm going to be more positive with how I approach the Locked On Kentucky Twitter at Locked On UK. This is kind of a cliche, cheesy thing that some people will say to get your attention or to say something serious. But your attention, especially when it comes to what you choose to watch online, your attention is a currency. It's valuable. Something that my dad tells me all the time. And this is another cliche thing that people say, but it's true. Even rich people get 24 hours in a day. They only get 24 hours. Nobody gets more than that. How you choose to spend each day should matter. You should put thought into how you live your life. And the time that you spend online, I think it's really important that you do so in a healthy manner. Less engagement with rage bait, less frustration with the team, less diving into the negativity, and trying to be more positive. There's a difference, to be clear. There's a difference between sunshine pumping, right? Being negative all the time for no reason, and then keeping it real. Being honest with yourself and being honest about a situation, right? We're going to keep things real, and we're going to continue to do so here on the show when they need to be. But I'm going to try and do a better job of both on Twitter and on this show trying to not be negative for no reason. If we're going to be upset, there's going to be a reason for it. We're not just going to blindly rush into it's the end of the world. Do a better job of that. Protect your attention. Choose to spend your time wisely online and on social media. That's what I'm going to do. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to learn to trust my eyes more. When it comes to this team, when it comes to college basketball, analytics are super valuable. I love analytics. I love KenPom. I love Torvik. I love Evan Mia. I just love basic stats about the game. I love everything to do with numbers in college basketball. I love everything to do with numbers in sports, period. It's my favorite thing. If I'm going to go back to school, I'm probably going to go get my degree in mathematics or data science, and we're going to roll into Locked On Kentucky with some newfound knowledge. That's probably not going to happen. But point being, I love numbers when it comes to do with sports and competition. And they are very valuable. But I need to start looking, and we need to start looking at these games and how they're playing out and what our eyes are telling us about how the players are reacting to each other on the court, both physically and then in terms of mentally, how they're reacting to each other, frustrations, emotions, how their confidence plays into things, how the sets and the momentum plays into how Kentucky is doing. There's so much more than just the numbers, right? So we're going to look, I wouldn't necessarily say we're going to look significantly less at efficiencies and data tracking and all these different computer models to determine how we think how a season or a game is going to play out. We're still going to look at those things, but we're going to actually try and watch the games and talk a little bit more in depth about what the players are saying to us and what their decisions and how they shoot and when they shoot and the momentum and all of these different things. We're going to learn to trust our eyes more with this team because there's going to be a lot of ugly games that Kentucky plays, right? There's going to be a lot of games where they just have to grind things out defensively. There's going to be games like the St. John's game or the Indiana game. We're going to say, yeah, it was not the most aesthetically pleasing basketball, but they have the ability to inflict their will on opponents. And sometimes it's less about the stats and more about how they're performing in terms of effort and aggression and their rotations and all these different things. So we're going to learn to trust our eyes a little bit more than what the computer models are saying, because the computer models still think Kentucky is a great team. Most of them do. But our eyes might be telling us a little bit something different about the squad, right? So, and now that they're starting to turn things around, maybe they're telling us something different again. So that's the second thing. And then the final thing here. We're going to learn, this is for me, just me, myself, and I. I'm going to learn to be more positive with how I approach the live chat. Because there were times last season, not as much this year, I would say. But there have been times where I have been susceptible to either rage bait or just comments that don't need to be here. they just don't need to be read. They just need to be there, and they just need to be what they are. We're going to learn to be more positive with how we approach Twitter. We're going to learn to be more positive with how we approach the live chat. We're going to learn to be more trustworthy of our eyes, right? Despite what maybe data may be saying. Okay. So those are the 3 New Year's resolutions. And now the question that Hostility says, how many games will Kentucky win in the SEC? They have a chance to win up to 18. I said on yesterday's show that I thought that 12 was very obtainable, 13 possibly, but 12 very much so obtainable for conference play. I'm going to say 12. I agree with Hostility. I think you can get to 12. 14 seems too good. 12 seems too low. Peanut Butter Posse says he's going to sit at 13. Captain Crash says he's going to sit at 21. I'm assuming you're saying 18 plus the tournament. Okay, that's what I was about to say. 18 plus the tournament. So we're going to win out from here on out, says Captain Crash. I love it. Peanut Butter Posse says, can't let players think this is a place to just get a bag. I think that's fair. At the same time, though, I think the incredibly aggressive version of that thinking from Pope has kind of deterred Kentucky from landing some of these big-time recruits already. We've talked about it in depth. Other media outlets have talked about it in depth. You're not wrong. Let me be clear. You are absolutely right. This has to be more than that. But we've got to find a way to strike a balance between you come here to play for us and us, like this is the reason why you're here, and here are the financial opportunities that we're going to provide you, right? You got to try and find and strike that balance in order to get the players that you want. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I think a lot of the negativity was warranted when they weren't playing hard. You can't just let a bunch of players come in and cash a check and mail it in without backlash. Now, that is 1,000% true. The Gonzaga game was the most unacceptable effort I have ever seen from this team. And the performance prior to that against North Carolina was just as bad, but it was at home, and you didn't just get blown out because Carolina's not as good of a team as the Zags are. Frankie Coleman says 13-5. I respect it. The Michigan State game was bad in terms of effort, but now they're starting to play a little hard. And Bellarmine, I don't think it was necessarily a lack of effort. I think Bellarmine was just like, we are going, like the sun is going to explode if we don't find a way to beat the Wildcats in Rupp Arena today, 2 days before Christmas. Like we are actually going to be shipped off into the sun if we don't find a way to win this game. And they played super, super hard. Super hard. So I'm going to say 12-6, 13-5 on the table. 12-6 is where I'm going to put the Wildcats, which means I guess their overall record before the SEC tournament will put them at 21-10, which, if I'm not mistaken, was exactly where they were a season ago. heading into the SEC tournament. Yeah. 23-8 the year before that, by the way. If we win that Carolina game, do you think we wake up in the second half of Indiana? I still think it's very possible because of what happened against Gonzaga, right? I think it's possible that you wake up, you lock in against Indiana. Because if you still have that 59-94 blowout loss against the Zags, I still think there's like a wake-up call that is had. So I'll say it's possible. I wouldn't know if I guarantee it, but I'd say it's possible. Guys, I really appreciate you tuning in tonight. I just wanted to hop on live here for a little bit, talk with you guys. Some New Year's resolutions, some more positive things as we head into SEC play on Saturday. Big one on the road at Alabama, a game that Kentucky probably isn't going to win, but they have the chance to win. And if they do, it'll be a huge, 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 huge way to start SEC play. Rooting for it. Appreciate you guys so much. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. You can hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Happy New Year, and God bless.